on the practice crime scene. Actually, I'll wait till the live stream comes up. All right, so good morning again to all those I just let in. And we got more coming. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay. All right, most of you have done your practice crime scene, and I have checked it. But I want you to go back and look at that picture for a minute. Our warm-up activity is going to be have something to do with that picture. All right. So study the picture. The unit that we're looking at today calls for expert witnesses. So all of you had tried to figure out what kind of crime happened. Now we want to look at what kind of experts are we going to need to solve this crime. So I want you to think about that. So this is the crime scene from the last lesson. So that's the one that we're referring to when I say from the previous activity. And if you go to your home page, you should have an assignment that says expert witness. All right, so before we look at that, I want you to look at the module. So let's look at the module first. And forensic scientists' responsibilities. It's a very short lesson, but it's the one you need to look at. I thought Brooklyn was in already. All right, so they give you a list of different professionals if you want a career in forensic science. So take a look at that. You can click on, mine is not forwarding, but you can advance forward and it gives you a couple of careers and what the careers will do. And I took the assignment question from the first line here. So it says an expert trial witness serves as an interpreter of evidence or to the judge and the jury. They explain not only the scientific findings, but also those findings may also apply to the question of guilt or responsibility. An expert witness has the burden of explaining difficult concepts to the judge or jury when those concepts are complex. They also serve as a professional opinion for the evidence. All right, so this is where I got it from. So again, you can flip through this, and mine is not moving. I don't know why. It should be moving, but hopefully yours will move. And you can flip through and look at the careers for an expert witness. Then I want you to come back to your homepage. Homepage. This is not in the module. So many say I can't find it because it's not in the modules. It's on your to-do list on your homepage. All right, so you want to click on expert witness practice. And again, all I did was copy and paste that first sentence, but this is your assignment here. And maybe I'm going to edit it and make it bold. How about that? All right, so again, I just took make this one big and bold. So this is the activity right there. Make it 18. There we go. That's what you got to do. Let me save it, come back. All right. Yours won't be, unless you refresh your page, yours won't be modified like I just did. But again, this paragraph is the same paragraph that I just read from the module that explains what an expert witness is. You're going to go through and look at some of the different careers or types of expert witnesses that you have. You're going to go back and look at that picture and decide what kind of expert witness would I need for that situation. And you are going to pretend to be an expert witness. First, you have to decide what would your specialty be? What career are you going to represent on the witness stand? And then what evidence, based on your career, what evidence are you going to provide or support to the judge? Okay, so you got two things to do. This is just a warm-up activity. This is not going to take all day. We're going to move on after this. So I'm going to take the next 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So that means at 9 o'clock, roughly, we want to move on. Okay, so you are to decide what kind of expert witness you would be. So again, go back and look at the module and look at the different careers. And then based on the person that you have picked, what kind of evidence would you pick to go with our last crime scene? So you're an expert witness for this crime scene. Okay, so we're sticking with that crime scene. You're somebody who is looking at evidence that was collected. You are now the expert on that type of evidence. And so say who you are and what evidence you're supporting. Okay, two things. Pick a career that you would be an expert for. And I'm going to say it again because somebody just came in. Hold on. All right, good morning. Good morning. All right. All right, so Isaiah, we are looking at the assignment for today. It's just a warm-up assignment. We're looking at this picture from the last lesson. All right, so this is our crime scene. We collected evidence. In this one, the body is the evidence and the knife is the evidence. Those are the two pieces of things that were marked. If you want to give evidence about something else at the scene, you're welcome to do so. But those are the two pieces of evidence that this crime scene provided. All right. So based on that, you are going to, let me come back to the module, see if my module is working yet. Come on, module. All right, so again, we are in forensic scientist responsibility lesson. That's the module you're looking at. You're going to pick a career. So hopefully yours will flip through the different careers. Mine is stuck. Is anybody else's stuck? Mine is not going forward.
You
Yours
press
is
the
stuck
arrow.
too. All right.
There's an arrow right there.
Yeah, I clicked the arrow and the arrow is not doing anything else. Advanced to his is stuck to, all right, Brooklyn said hers isn't working either. All right, so I tell you what you can do though. We're going to go back to the previous module and I think we got some scientists listed there. No, okay, hold on. Then we might have to do some research on. Yeah, I don't know why that's not working. No, that's not. Well, okay. No, that's not gonna work either. So let's look at. We're gonna take it from the vocabulary list. Mm, mm, mm. All right. And this was someplace else in the module. Hold on. You can take it from there or mm, mm, there was one, not that one, that had you matching up to different careers. You go back to, since the other one won't work, go back to the module that says Crime Scene Lab Organization, and you come down here, Forensic Specialties. Okay, this one's not cooperating for me. Hopefully yours is working because mine is taking a minute here. There was a list of specialties right here. When it decides to pop up, it will be there. There we go. All right, there we are. All right, look at those specialties. You're going to be an expert witness from one of these areas. Okay, so go through this. Again, I'm going to give you 15 minutes to go through. Pick, are you a pathologist? Are you a entomologist? And um, later on, we'll talk about why knowing the bugs at the scene is important. I don't know that engineering would be so good. Um, Being a dentist might be good. Psychiatry, knowing the psyche of the person who committed the crime. And since we don't have bones at the scene, I don't know that a forensic anthropologist would be necessary. So I would stick with someone who's looking at the blood or looking at bone teeth structure or something like that. But those are some of the careers that you can look at. Why are these things not changing? So this one you can click through and it'll tell you what they do. And all right, so again, pick an expert. You are an expert. You are an expert. Decide what kind of expert you're going to be. And none of my forward buttons are working today. All right, so that one was crime scene. Then you want to come back to responsibilities. And that's where the question is. You think this is going to work now? How about if I click on that? Didn't work either. All right, let's see. Zoom to fit. That didn't help. All right. And basically, I mean, this will help a little bit. So if you're just being a forensic scientist, but there are specialties in forensic science. So pick a specialty. Again, the assignment is to pick a specialty and explain what evidence you are going to support based on the scene from the last situation. So, all right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Actually, I'm going to repeat this one more time because I'm just letting somebody in. And then after 9 o'clock, we're going to move on. Good morning. All right, so again, the assignment with the Dropbox is found expert witness practice. It's on the to-do list. find it on the to-do list. There's two things you have to come up with. What expert witness? What is your specialty? You're on the witness stand now. You're talking to the judge. What is your specialty? And what evidence are you going to verify? Okay. Two sentences. Two full sentences. You got to explain the evidence now. You can't just say the blood, the knife. All right. That's a full sentence. All right. And if you have any questions, any questions, any questions. All right. Check in attendance. Oh, why did I do that? All right. Remember, I check attendance by looking at Go Guardian, so I should see everybody working. Everybody looking at your picture and deciding what expert you are going to be for that crime scene. Yeah, quite a few missing people this morning. The arrow isn't working. So your Dropbox isn't working? Is that what you're saying? Give me 1 second to finish the attendance and I will check on that. You should have, um, okay, give me 1 second to look at that. It's done. Okay, maybe there's something wrong with the, mine is working. Okay, let me share. That one is working for a change. Right. Somebody asked where you're supposed to put your answers. You should, and I'm looking at the student page, so that always works. So you can text your text box, is that working? I know you could upload is working. So this should be just type of text. Okay. So that should work. It's not in the module. Don't look for it in the module. Look for it on your home page. It is not in the module. It is not in the module. So you come back to your to-do list. It's your today to-do list. And it is the expert. So I'm on the to-do list. That's where it is. It's not in the module. I took the statement from the module, so it's the same statement as the sentence in the module. And I'm going to do that as a warm-up every day. I'm going to take the opening sentence from the module and make that the warm-up assignment. Okay. So from your to-do list, to-do list, to-do list, because it was an assignment. So it's not a module activity, it's an assignment. That's why it's not in the module. Always check your to-do list. Your to-do list is going to tell you what you need to do. And sometimes it's in the modules. If it was carried over from last year, it'll be in the module. If it's something I added this year, it will not be in the module. It'll be on your to-do list always. It's in the grade book. That's where you need to be worried about where is it. All right, I'll give another few minutes because I think some people are still working, and then we'll move on. If you're already finished with that, you can go to the next lesson in the module and notice that that is the last lesson. It is the wrap up. Wrap up means that we're finished with this module and we need to start getting ready for a test. On this wrap up, you've already done that review activity. So just take a look at it again. And You're welcome. All right. I'm Time is up, so we're going to look at um, what to do next. So I'm going to share again. All right, so like I said, we are technically on the last part of that module. So there was a wrap up, and you've already done the wrap up activity. You've already looked at all of the scientists, and um, well, wrap up means test is coming. Okay, wrap up means test is coming. So we are finished with the introduction to forensic science unit. You have already done the assignment for history of forensics. So you've already submitted your answer to all of these scientists. So we're going to move on, but know that when do I see you next? Friday. So not tomorrow, but Friday. We will have a test on the first module. All right. That being said, so tomorrow we'll touch on some review points, but today we're going to look at the next module, which is crime scene investigation, CSI, and we're going to look at the different patterns. So this is the vocabulary for that. We're going to look at if you're at a crime scene, there are different patterns that okay, we kind of looked at that already too. That's where we got our okay. I might be doing this backwards today, but why did it not? Oh, because it's not published for you. Okay, so let me leave that and let me publish the next. It is published. Not. Hmm. So how come it didn't show up on yours? Today is one of those. Today is acting like a Monday. Okay. Any case. we're going to look at the first set of vocabulary words here, the different searches. This search, when we're examining a scene, we're going to look at, I'm trying to find it on the module. There we go. All right, so okay, so this is where I want to be today. And let me make sure that it's published for you. All right, so we're in the next unit. We're looking for evidence of collecting techniques. Evidence collect. And we're going to look at, so you've decided what kind of witness expert you are. Now we're going to look at the kinds of evidence that's collected at the crime scene. So there's a whole list of things here that you can collect. Some of it would have been collected at so we could have collected hair samples, blood samples, tools, because the knife is a tool, fingerprints, and maybe even some documents might have been left at the scene. But we're going to look at a video talking about these search patterns. Okay, somebody just come late, so let them in. All righty. So let us
Okay, here in this Tobacco University video, we're going to be looking at the crime scene search methods. We have a couple pictured here to give you a general idea of the pattern you should be going through, but we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. So first off, when conducting a search, the whole point of conducting the search is for evidence. This must be thorough and systematic. You do not want to make assumptions. You want to consider any pertinent evidence and do not overlook little details, because failure to do so can lead to accusations of negligence or covering up evidence. So we don't want to kind of like, if we look up here, we don't want to assume there's just 3, because if we look on kind of the other side over here, it looks like there's 4. We want to be try to impartial, but also thorough, systematic, and detail-oriented. Now, field evidence technicians are the person responsible for conducting the evidence search. They're mainly looking for fingerprints, footprints, tool marks, hairs, fibers, and also possible trace evidence carriers as well. This should also be photographed in the crime scene, documented, because this is a really important part, especially depending on the scene. This searching for evidence is a critical part for any scene. Now, before the search can even begin, before we even get to that stage of looking for that evidence, we want to ensure this scene is controlled. This also includes briefing all searchers involved, establish the speed and areas of responsibility so everyone kind of has a game plan going in, or hopefully a limited number of people, but so even those that are in there, so no one interferes with anyone else's area in their searching. You want to determine a starting point. You want to establish a command post. You want to maintain communication between all people involved. Just to insert anything comes up that everyone is aware. Want to rotate people through areas to ensure more than one person looks at each area to reduce the chance that a detail is missed. Everyone's going to probably miss some little detail. We don't want to have a ton of people going in there, but having someone go through and do a second sweep of an area is definitely well advised. Now, these search patterns, so exactly how you're going to search a room, well, there's something called a spiral search method, and this starts at an outer point and gradually moves toward the center. Or it could start.
All right, I'm going to pause it there for a minute. All right, so there are 4 types of search patterns. So you need to, those of you who are note takers, this is where you need to start taking notes. So this is pattern number 1.
an inner point and move outward from that center, as we kind of see the images here. So depending on the room, depending on the area, depending on the scene may influence what type of search method you use, but this is one example, and this is called a spiral search here. Now moving on from a spiral search, we also have a grid method. So the grid method scene is divided into grid, and each grid is segmented in its search, just as the name implies. You have this kind of very boxy-like look, and you're searching and focusing on those different boxes within that overall grid. Then we get to a line search, which is crime scene divided into strips, and each strip is searched. Again, this could be based on limiting factors, but this is just another search pattern that can be used, line or parallel search here. Then we get into what we call a zone search, and this is a quadrant or zone search. Kind of has similar properties to the grid method, but in this case, the scene is divided into quadrants, and each quadrant is searched, so it's a little bit broader based here. This is, again, more important documenting where north is involved to know where the zones are actually located in a room, and what evidence might be found in those areas, or how that room might be set up can influence whether this one is selected. Those search pattern selections, so as I said, kind of those are the general overview, but how we actually go about selecting or determining which one we're going to use is important. And that can come down to the size, type of location of the area. Is it an indoor location or is it an outdoor location? How big is it if it's an indoor compared to an outdoor? There are a lot of trees in the outdoors, an open park, things to consider. Also the personnel and the equipment. How many people do you have? What equipment is needed and what do you have access to? You know, we all like to have the ideal amount, but a lot of times we're limited and restricted, so that's going to influence what search we may select. The type of crime that was committed, if we can establish that or have an idea of that early on, this can impact the type of evidence that's going to be collected, and that can also influence what pattern you choose so you can be most effective. Now, evidence from the victim themselves. Well, this may be collected by a medical examiner. Evidence often includes from the actual victim would be fiber from their clothing, hair from their head and pubic areas, blood, hand swabs for gunpowder if that was suspected to be part of the crime, and also photographs. So this is a lot of information just from the victim, never mind the surrounding area as well. So just keep these in mind when we're kind of going through and establish and search a crime scene to be effective and efficient, because it is only a one-time shot at getting that evidence undisturbed.
Okay, he talked kind of fast, so and somebody was saying that they were trying to write notes down. All right, let me do this first of all. Make sure, number one, that I did save it to your playlist. Okay, so it is on the playlist. All right, and number two, I will go back and play it one more time.
In this video at Tobacco University, we're going to be investigating crime scene questions. Kind of the what, the who, the where, the when, the how, and the why involved with crime scenes.
Hold on.
Well, starting with who did it. You know, that
Actually,
first
this is a
initial
different video. Hold on.
In this video at Tobacco University, we're going to be looking at crime scene overall processing protocol, kind of that overview.
I lost him.
How you go about processing a crime scene. So starting with the investigation. Investigation involves and always involves that local cards exchange principle. Okay, in this Tobacco University video, we're going to be looking.
I just lost the video.
In this video.
Although I like that. Make sure.
Okay, here in this Tobacco University video, we're going to be looking.
And it was not the one I saved. All right, but we need to look at that one too. All right, so I'm going to show this one again. And again, so we're looking at the 4 different patterns.
Search methods. We have a couple pictured here to give you a general pattern you should be going through. But we're going to look at this in a.
All right, and then what I'm going to ask you to do, the follow-up activity to this, is that we would go back and look at our picture again and decide which one of these patterns would you have used if you were the crime scene investigator for our activity. Uh-oh, I did it again.
In this video at Tobacco University, we're going to be investigating crime scene questions. Kind of the what, the who, the where,
all right.
the when, the how, and the why involved with.
Video.
Okay, Here in this DeBacco University video, we're going to be looking at the crime scene search methods. We have a couple pictured here to give you a general idea of the pattern you should be going through, but we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. So first off, when conducting a search, it's the whole point of conducting the search is for evidence. This must be thorough and systematic. You do not want to make assumptions. You want to consider any pertinent evidence and do not overlook little details, because failure to do so can lead to accusations of negligence or covering up evidence. So we don't want to kind of like
All right,
look
this is important in collecting evidence, and you might want to write this down. This is a pattern procedure you should follow. And you don't have to write everything down, but the basic thing is to consider pertinent evidence. Do not overlook details. Remember, be very observant. Look for every little thing. You want to search the area thoroughly. So this is why we have these patterns. So that's what we're going to decide after we watch this how to do a detailed search of the picture you just did, which of the patterns that which you have used. Okay, so after we finish watching it, that's where your mind needs to be. Which of the patterns would you have used? Somebody asked, I did save them to the playlist, so if you need to go back and look at them again slower than I'm doing, then you need to go ahead and do that.
Up here, we don't want to assume there's just 3, because if we look on kind of the other side over here, it looks like there's 4. We want to be trying to impartial, but also thorough, systematic, and detail-oriented. Now, field evidence technicians are the person responsible for conducting the evidence search. They're mainly looking for fingerprints, footprints, tool marks, hairs, fibers, and also possible trace evidence carriers as well. This should also be photographed in the crime scene, documented, because this is a really important part, and especially depending on the scene, this searching for evidence is a critical part for any scene. Now, before the search can even begin, before we even get to that stage of looking for that evidence, we want to ensure the scene is controlled. This also includes briefing all searchers involved, establish the speed and areas of responsibility so everyone kind of has a game plan going in, or hopefully a limited number of people, but so even those that are in there, so no one interferes with anyone else's area in their searching. You want to determine a starting point. You want to establish a command post. You want to maintain communication between all people involved, just to ensure anything comes up that everyone is aware. You want to rotate people through areas to ensure more than one person looks at each area to reduce the chance that a detail is missed. Everyone's going to probably miss some little detail. We don't want to have a ton of people going in there, but having someone go through and do a second sweep of an area is definitely well advised. Now, these search patterns, so exactly how you're going to search a room, well, there's something called a spiral search method, and this starts at an outer point and gradually moves toward the center, or we could start at an inner point and move outward from that center, as we kind of see the images here. So depending on the room, depending on the area, depending on the scene, may influence what type of search.
I'll pause it there. Some folks wonder. Now, mind you, these definitions are also on your vocabulary list in Canvas. So I would take notes I would write down the 4 facts, but I wouldn't necessarily worry about definition, because you do have a definition in Canvas.
Method you use, but this is one example, and this is called a spiral search here. Now, moving on from a spiral search, we also have a grid method. So the grid method scene is divided into grid, and each grid is segmented in the search.
Okay. And again, this you want to also use measuring tools with this so that you know how big your grid areas are.
as the name implies. You have this kind of very boxy-like look, and you're searching and focusing on those different boxes within that overall grid. Then we get to a line search, which is crime scene divided into strips, and each strip is searched. Again, this could be based on limiting factors, but this is just another search pattern that can be used, line or parallel search here. Then we get into what we call a zone search, and this is a quadrant or zone search. Kind of has similar properties to the grid method, but in this case, the scene is divided into quadrants, and each quadrant is searched, so it's a little bit broader based here. This is, again, more important documenting where north is involved to know where the zones are actually.
Those who are writing. And again, these definitions are in your Canvas vocabulary list.
Located in a room and what evidence might be found in those areas or how that room might be set up can influence whether this one is selected. Those search pattern selections, so as I said, kind of those are the general overview, but how we actually go about selecting or determining which one we're going to use is important. And that can come down to the size, type of location of the area. Is it an indoor location or is it an outdoor location? How big is it if it's an indoor compared to an outdoor? There are a lot of trees in the outdoors, an open park, things to consider. Also, the personnel and the equipment. How many people do you have? What equipment is needed and what do you have access to? You know, we all like to have the ideal amount, but a lot of times we're limited and restricted, so that's going to influence what search we may select. The type of crime that was committed, if we can establish that or have an idea of that early on, this can impact the type of evidence that's going to be collected, and that can also influence what pattern you choose so you can be most effective. Now, evidence from the victim themselves. Well, this may be collected by a medical examiner. Evidence often includes from the actual victim would be fiber from their clothing, hair from their head and pubic areas, blood, hand swabs for gunpowder if that was suspected to be part of the crime, and also photographs. So this is a lot of information just from the victim, never mind the surrounding area as well.
All right, I'm gonna leave this here for a minute. So on the warm-up activity, you could have come in as your expert, could have been the medical examiner. Okay, so those of you who haven't done that activity yet, you could have picked medical examiner. These are things that you could have spoken about as being an expert witness, and that you could have talked about the blood on the body, the hairs found on the body. That we wouldn't have to worry about gunpowder because it's definitely not indicated in that crime scene that a gun was used. Fiber on the clothing. Those are things, and photographs. Somebody should have photographed the scene. You could have been an expert you could have been the photographer who photographed the scene. All right, so this goes back to the warm-up activity of what you could have been. You could have been the medical examiner. Okay. All right. The other question I said, the last thing he said is this will determine the type of search pattern. just went blank there. Type of search pattern that you would pick. Looking at the crime scene, and the victim will determine what type of search pattern that you would pick. So let's look at our picture again. Okay. And again, this evidence where I got the types of patterns is in your module for All right, there's your crime scene patterns. It's on collecting evidence, techniques, and lessons. All right, but before we look at that, let's look at our picture again, and I want you to decide based on the patterns, which pattern would you have used? Let's do this as a waterfall answer. So think about it. Think about it, think about it, think about it. Type an answer, but don't submit it yet. Don't submit till I tell you. So think about it. Give you 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Think about which of the patterns. So you can go back and look at the module and or look at your notes, what the different patterns are. We'll switch back and forth. And all right, so that's our picture. You want to study the picture, and then you want to look at your types of patterns. Under evidence collecting. And decide what type of pattern you want. Now, like I said, if you click on these, they'll define them for you. So what type of pattern do you think would have been best for our crime scene? I'll give you another minute to decide. And then when I say go, I want to see everybody who is present. Everybody who's present needs to have an answer. You should have typed your answer in the space. And when I say go, just hit send. So I should see a whole list of and don't wait for everybody else's answer to show up. Everybody should have an answer already in, ready to go. And let's see what the general consensus is. All right, send. Everybody's not sending. All right, we got a lot. So looking at the results, and some of y'all are waiting to see what everybody else said. I'm gonna give it a second because some of y'all are waiting. All right, look like we have more answers for grid than we have spiral. All right, so the grid says is a parallel search is performed and another parallel search is done at 90 degrees angle so that there's a lateral grid formed over the area. All right, so in other words, you're walking up the scene and then you're walking across the scene. Okay. And that seems to be a lot of you said spiral. So let's look at our picture again. Trying to the fastest way for me to get there all the time is just to go back to the home page and click on the picture that way. All right. So if we did a grid search, so that, and I don't know if you can see my pointer going up and down the page. So you could start at the top of the page. Okay, I can see it, so I guess you can. And basically what you're saying on the grid search, we would start maybe at the top and walk down and then look back up and look back down. So we would just be going up and down this, and then you need to reposition yourself and start looking across, doing a parallel look across. Okay. Now, some of you said spiral. Spiral might not be the best one because this is kind of a small scene. So if you started circling from the outside, because I said there's two ways you can do it. You can start from the middle and work out. This is a scene that you would have to work from the outside and try to get closer to the body, but that wouldn't be much of a spiral. So I agree with the majority who said that this should be a grid search. Okay. It could, because it's a small one, we wouldn't do a quadrant. If we had a big field, maybe we would do a quadrant search in the big field. But like I said, I'm agreeing with most of you that if you had to pick a pattern, that a grid search would be best for this particular activity. All right, so let's go back over here. And we got what? 5 minutes, 10 minutes. All right, so let's come back to uh, evidence collecting. And come back up to the top and look at this one. All right, so spend the remaining of the time going through this one, types of evidence. And you just click on these: direct evidence, physical evidence, indirect evidence, and other examples. So please take a few minutes to read that over. We've already done this one. Look at this list of all of the types of evidence that can be collected. Like I said, in our crime scene, we did not collect all of these, but definitely take a minute to go through and look at these. All right, so in the time that's left, go through and look at this. And again, I'm on evidence collecting techniques. It's not the first unit, but that's the one we started with, and then we'll go back. I picked this one because it went with our activity, and then we'll go back. Also keep in mind that there will be a test on, when do I see you next? Thursday. Yes. No, Friday. Test for you Friday. So when tomorrow we'll kind of do another warm-up activity, and then Friday there's a module test on the first module, the introductory module. Any questions? Any questions? Also, in the time that's left, if you haven't done the warm-up activities, some of you came late. We had a warm-up activity. Please look at that. It's on your on your to-do list. It's not in the module, it's on the to-do list. It was evidence expert, or no, it was expert witness. If you haven't done your crime scene report, usually make sure that's done. And again, remember that two things I need to say. Remember that when it says that it's due until, that's when it's late. If you need to turn it in and it won't let you turn it in, I will change the availability, but I'm not changing the late date. So it'll still be late, but I'd rather you do it than not do it. You don't want a zero, but it'll still be late. Second, tutoring is available. I am available for tutoring Tuesdays and Fridays. So just in the afternoon. So check the list or email me and I'll see if I can schedule you for tutoring. If you need help, you don't understand something, it's an assignment that you just couldn't wrap your head around. I know it's kind of early, but tutoring has started, so I I am available. All right, well, if you have no questions for me and you've looked at your list and you submitted all your work for today, I'll see you tomorrow. You have a great rest of your day.